but build on them and not expect everybody just simply to say, yeah, that's right, and that's okay, that's enough.
But Damian, I hear you, and I totally respect what you're saying from a practical perspective. You grew up in an intellectual family, you had an extraordinary education, you've been able to have a career change in the middle, you've been able to push at these issues. But with arts education becoming a luxury rather than a necessity, and...
See, that's the thing right there. That's the paradigm shift that must change. And I would argue that, and I sat with my friend Anna DeVere Smith on a panel, and you know, somebody made the mistake of saying, we have to bring back arts education. And she said, I didn't have arts education where I grew up. We assume everybody had it. That wasn't the case at all. Yes, somebody handed me a recorder when I was in first grade. It's very true. And I don't think many first graders are getting handed that recorder today. But that, you know, assumption is dangerous in a sense. I was extremely lucky. I mean, father was a professor, my mother worked for UNICEF, traveled the world. I had all these different types of opportunities, and it was very unconventional. I mean, none of it was conventional. None of it was meant to happen. But that's the idea that the arts education are a luxury. That's the paradigm that has to change, because, I mean, what's going on, what Margo referred to with Yo-Yo, is in the New York City public schools, he's got a pilot program for 6th graders through the Silk Road Project. It's called Silk Road Connect. And what it's supposed to do, if it's doing its job, is to inform the curriculum, the 6th grade curriculum, through the arts. You're learning social studies. How can music inform that? Geography, calligraphy, how can that help? And this is only first year just ended, and there's more going forward, and I'm helping him form the program. I'm producing sort of his year-end event, which in itself I refer to as a litmus test. Did it work? Let's see, did it work? And that defines whether it's a luxury or not, and that's what I think has to change.
But you should go next.
Yes.
Do you want to speak on this topic before we get into America Now and Here, or do you want me to ask you a different question?
No, just add a few things, I think, because the points are absolutely salient. And I think that to speak to the name change away from art, one thing we have to understand is that creativity is a process of which art is one result.
That's exactly right.
And what you want to, certainly within the educational structure, is you want to teach the process and let it lead where it leads to all the individuals involved, because obviously people with a predilection to science, it's going to lead in one direction, or to finance, it's going to lead in another, et cetera, et cetera. So the emphasis should, I think, be on process and creative process, which is a question-based process as opposed to an answer-based process. Interesting, in the panel that was before, and they talked a lot about fear, and I think it's something that we're all facing. Certainly 9/11 was a catalyst for putting us into that position. But it's something that what goes along with fear is that you are frozen because what lays in front of you is uncertainty. And artists are well trained at managing that place. Every painter that goes into the studio and faces the emptiness of a canvas understands the risk that they're about to face, and has developed all kinds of ways of fooling themselves into believing that they can fill that void with something meaningful, productive, interesting, exciting, etc. That's part of the process that you want to bring forward to the public, to the kids and stuff like that, is the tools that we can use to to manage our fear in the face of risk. And as I said, I think the creativity in the arts can certainly do that.
And I think that some of the best art, certainly in America and other places around the world, is created in the context of some sort of fear or uncertainty or some tension or world calamity. And I think that's been shown time and time again. not to pick on the French, but I was laughing when Bernard said the French hate everybody. And when you think about French art from post-war, not before the war, of course they were the greatest civilization in the world in those early years of the 20th century. And since about, I don't know, 1970, 80, what's happened? Why are there no interesting French artists? Because the government has come in and taken care of the arts, the artists. They created these regional centers with lots of money that immediately bought up the production of the artist once it was made, of contemporary artists, and put them in these regional kind of warehouses, often in storage. And there was no sort of tension or need or anything driving artists to create, because they knew it was just going to be taken care of, subsumed by the government, and not having to sort of test itself on a national platform.
Absent the marketplace, there's no genuine.
Well, but you can
force.
have the other argument, whereas, you know, Rocco Landesman, who is a really visionary leader of the NEA and is working across departments and agencies, which has basically never been done. But here's a man who asked for $50 million to do his Our Town initiatives, which is to show the economic impact of cultural institutions, and he ended up with 5, and that hasn't even gone through the Congress. That's all that they would allot him. So I think we do have to change. I mean, we have to understand the context in which this country responds to issues, and we have to change the way we talk about it in order to be persuasive. Mm-hmm. And I mean, another area, I mean, it was very sad in 2007, I guess it was, I was at the conference, I was at the Appropriations Committee hearings for the NEA, and Jonathan Spector, who was head of the conference board, said to me, and he testified as such, you're going to see a flood of money from American corporations into the schools for arts education, because we do not have a prepared workforce. And if you see Newsweek last week, you know, where is American creativity going? We don't have kids graduating from school who can fill these jobs. And it's a real problem, and it's a process. It's exactly what Eric was talking about. It's that the kids aren't coming out able to think critically, to think innovatively, to problem solve. And this is a real issue. And these are arguments we're going to have to make, because those are the persuasive arguments here.
And now that I've said that, you know, you can't live by the maxims of the past, it is work. It is creativity and imagination are not, Balanchine said, it's not like you get a stomachache. It doesn't happen. It's work. It's work. It's training of a sort to think creatively, to think expansively. And that's what the arts in schools can do if they're done well. But there is that tension that we're all fighting with. And I want to say one last thing just about the ideas of marketing the product, if you will. We did have this incredible meeting, and it really was about creating a movement. What is a movement? Well, a movement has a base. It has something that it's an upsurge. It's not something you put on it. Right. And we learned one thing that just floored me. Do you know what the peace sign is, which is a ubiquitous symbol of a movement? It's semaphore for nuclear disarmament. It's the weirdest thing. It actually has something real. Remember that? It's amazing. And I happen to know this because of Union Jack. It's ND. That's the peace sign. It came out of something completely real, and it was made into, it was synthesized with obviously tremendous, he didn't know exactly how, who did, what, when, but isn't that amazing? Next time you see that, think about it. It's semaphore. It is telling you something.
I think it's interesting, and Margo, I know you were very instrumental in the appointment of Rocco as chairman of the NEA, and he did coin this new slogan, Art Works, which is a very clever phrase intended to persuade Americans that investment in the art can build stronger communities and revive a flagging economy. But what he's really saying is art jobs are real jobs. And that's where this pilot project, Our Town, has come in to help communities plan and develop art districts, which would lead to a restored sense of pride and community spirit. And the efforts would include artist residencies, transforming community sites into art spaces, creating new ways to engage people with the arts, festivals, celebrations, outdoor exhibitions, commissioning temporary or permanent site-specific art, murals, sculptures, fountains, whatever. And he's also very cleverly working now with other agencies like HUD and the Department of Transportation to sort of pool their resources, because there's common ground here to help kind of get this money for the arts. But what I'm fascinated about when I think about the Our Town initiative is actually Eric's initiative, America Now and Here, because a lot of what Rocco is trying to achieve in getting communities to be more integrated with the arts is very